Okay, what do you call an iPhone that isn't kidding around? You call it dead serious. Okay, now I believe Apple has become one of the most famous brands in the entire world. I am pretty sure almost every one of you has an iPhone. Now, I understand that even though we may not all own an Apple product, we've at least seen it through product placement, like through different kinds of media, like on television or on movies and such. Now, why should I be listened to, even though I may just have a Samsung? Well, Apple has become one, or has been founded or established since April 1, 1964. However, the very first iPhone didn't come out till 2007. So today, I would like to review with you all the history of Apple Incorporated or incorporation. I will be talking about its past since 1976, the present of how Apple became to be one of the most popular brands, and the future of the Apple products. But isn't it strange how I just said 1976, even though Apple didn't come out till 1964? Well, allow me to explain it. Okay, so first I would like to talk to you all about the past. Before, it was just a small startup by two college dropouts. And even though there's two dropouts, there was actually a third person. Now, let me explain to you who those people are. There's Steve Wozniak, Ronald Wayne, and the most famous person you all have heard of, Steve Jobs. Now, according to Nick Rawlinson, a freelance writer for the newsletter of Macworld, he states that if not for Wayne, there might not be an iPad, an iPhone, and more. He was considered as an arbiter, and that's a person who settles as a dispute or has the ultimate authority in a matter. In any case, should he and Woz come to blows. And the strange thing is, the reason he isn't given much credit for is because he sold his share for about $800. Now, it's strange how even though he sold his own share, he didn't want to be kept along with the journey to eventually become what is best known as something popular. Now, according to Amy Martin, the associate money editor for CNBC Make It, they say that he was standing in the shadow of intellectual giants. Now, I'm pretty sure the way he felt was kind of like he was just like not what he kind of expected to become great as his own way, but being great as something to come along with those two guys. Now, Mary Willis, former freelance writer for Thaco, has officially stated that Apple officially made debut on April 1st, 1964, but that was for the very first time Steve Jobs and for Jobs, Wayne, and Wozniak first elaborated on the idea of Apple. Now, it wasn't until 1976 when Apple I officially came out. Apple I is a desktop computer that came out as a single motherboard, pre-assembled, and if you guys don't know, a motherboard is a printed circuit board containing the principal components of a computer or other device with connectors into which other circuit boards can be slotted. Now, this computer was supposed to be unlike any other computer that anyone could have thought of during that era. Next, I would like to talk about the present of Apple and how it slowly became to be popular. According to David Pierce and Lauren Good, senior writers for The Wired, Apple's success proved to other big tech companies that the best products come when you make both the hardware and software, especially for its phones. Now, next thing I'd like to talk about would be the phones itself. So, okay, now bear with me. There have been a lot of phones since 2007, such as the very first iPhone, 3GS, the 4S, the 4S, 5, 5C, 6, 7, 8, and up till now the XS and XR. And as you can see, there has been an increase of iPhones being sold worldwide. As you can tell, it's going through the years, and it increases by unit sales in millions. Now, it was up till 2015 when the iPhone 6s and 6 Plus had the best best sales compared to the newer models such as the 7, 8, and X models. Now, I'm not saying which model is considered the best. It's more like the way on how you feel better suitable with its technology. Now, according to Buster Hain, a freelance writer for Color Math, 2018 has been one of the best years for Apple. Now, I clearly don't understand that, even though 2015 they sold more phones worldwide. But according to Buster Hain, he mentions that 2 billion iOS devices have been sold and 500 million visitors for a combination of both the App Store and Apple Store. And I mean this worldwide. Now finally, I'd like to talk about the future for Apple and its products surprisingly coming a lot quicker than we might expect, which makes it good for us consumers to have the latest technology in our own hands. When it comes to the future, for a certain brand, we usually expect something new, something fast, and something a lot more advanced. In previous years, Apple has been able to meet certain expectations, from having a finger scanner to having a face scanner. But as we enjoy them, we may tend to focus on the next thing, mostly on what we can get immediately. According to Aman Jain, writer for Value Walk, Tim Cook assures that newer Apple products will blow them away. Now, if you don't know, Tim Cook is CEO for Apple, and he mentions that there's rumors of AR glasses and electric self-driving vehicle, which seems cool, but even though they're only rumors, you can't really be sure if they're true or not. However, there have been some confirmed about not newer products, but newer things coming soon. That would be for Apple TV, Apple Card, and Apple Arcade. Now, I don't want to go too in-depth with that, but pretty much Apple Card is a new way to pretty much use, it's a credit card that is being able to use how well you spend on stuff. Apple Arcade is, long way of saying this in short, it's similar to Netflix, but for video games, so it's like a subscription for games and stuff. And Apple TV is going to be a new way to watch movies and television, and it's also going to compete with Netflix and Hulu. Now, in conclusion, I have elaborated with everyone about the past of how Apple came to be, the present of how well known Apple has become, and the future for Apple products. Now, we may not know what comes for Apple, but maybe it'll be something really worthwhile and something we can truly enjoy for a long run. And I'm gonna leave off with one thing. If Apple does ever make a car, do you suppose it'll have windows? Thank you.
It's so much more expensive than it's like $2.99 for one episode. So like, okay, I don't know.
All right, well, I like the bad joke at the start and the conclusion of the speech. I think you need to kind of have that style a little bit more in the rest of the speech. You've got kind of a lighthearted thing that you've got at the beginning, a lighthearted thing that at the end. And it would work better if you had a more lighthearted style during the presentation. You're very formal in the way you're talking for the most part, and I think that you need to kind of design the speech more around informality, maybe inserting additional humor like that in different spots, maybe transition spots in the speech, for instance, and talking to us a little bit more Gesundheit in a personal manner. I know you're trying to get all the information correct, and I think that's an admirable thing, but remember, we're evaluating the presentation today, and that, I think, gets in the way of your presentation, your focus on the detail. The best thing that you've got on the content is your consistent citation of information. You're very good at doing that. I didn't think your explanation about Wayne was very clear. It seemed a little bit confusing. I don't know that it added that much to the presentation. You could have just given us the thumbnail version of the early history of Apple. That 12-year gap between 1964 and 1976, I'm not sure what was going on then. And the 1964 sounds like it's an awfully early process. You might want to double check on that. I'm not saying that it's wrong. It just sounded weird. That, you know, and I don't know how old those guys would have been in 1964, but that seems like it would put them, you know, maybe in elementary school or high school. So maybe they were that engaged early on in the process. I'm not sure. It was a little, like I said, that background part was a little confusing to me. But I like the fact that you cited all your sources during the presentation and you tried to get the data correct. The visuals are also perfectly fine. They're integrated pretty well into the presentation. Let's talk about the delivery issues. I want to start with the fact that for the first third of the speech, you don't talk to anybody on this side of the room. It's all that side of the room. You got a lot of love for those folks, you know, but it's like, and then even in the last part of the speech, you look over here occasionally, but it's still, you know, somebody over there is your happy place. You know, you probably know somebody, you probably see somebody, maybe somebody smiling at you. I don't know, but it just seems like your focus is on the one part of the room, and you need to engage everybody. Part of it is also the fact that you've chosen to speak from that particular side of the screen, which incentivizes you focusing on this side of the room. So that's also an issue, and you need to maybe come out a little bit. You've got that back corner. You're practically behind the desk while you're speaking. You're not exactly behind the desk, but you almost are. You're as far in the corner as you can be without being behind the desk. The remote will work from anywhere in the room, so you don't have to be right in that particular spot. And since you're not using a podium, I don't know why you stay in that same spot. I think this would be one of those places where walking the transitions would make a lot of sense. I'm a little hesitant about the notes because you do have to break your audience contact a lot, and that's, I think, a thing that undermines the engagement part of the presentation. Your facial expressions are okay. You're animated for the most part. Like I said, I think you need to do a little bit more of what you did at the beginning, at the end of the speech, and the rest of the presentation, kind of relating to us as people. You know, you're making a joke, you're talking to us, you're having that kind of relationship. If you could do that a little bit more during the presentation, I think it would come across more effectively. There wasn't anything that was bad except for that eye contact issue and the dependence on the notes. Everything else was pretty solid, and there's some things that are quite good. So, you know, it needs a little bit of practice. I think there's some hesitation in a couple of spots. That's frequently when you get lost in your notes, and it would, you know, if you could remember the information a little bit better. For instance, I think you could probably get rid of the notes, remember almost every main point that you're going to make with the visuals that you have, because there's a good prompt there. The only thing that you should need the notes for are the quotes and the statistics and the examples. If you could keep those on one side of one card and have only 3 cards, you'd have fewer problems. I can see that you've got stuff on both sides of the cards, you're flipping around the cards, you're shuffling them, and that's going to cause you to get lost. So you need to simplify. When you use notes, you really want to keep them as simple as possible. All right, thank you.